Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Potsmucker's Bible. My name is Zion. I'm the author of the Potsmucker's Bible, which contains the prophetic book of Zion, where I get my name and authority. It comes from the Ketuvim, or Tanakh, of the Jewish Testament. However, being raised a Christian, I use the King James Version of the Bible to put together the prophecy of Israel from the scattered testimony of the Old Testament prophets. It became the Book of Zion, and it reflects perfectly the year 2020. Now, when I first put together the prophecy of Israel, I found contained within it a set of instructions that I am uniquely qualified to undertake. So I did. And as a final act of prophecy foretold in the prophecy of Israel, I am to publish peace, which is exactly what I'm doing right now here on this social media platform. I'm publishing peace. And thus I conclude my prophetic work. Everything else is just the world catching up with me. Now, in order to publish the Book of Zion, I was required to write another book, the Potsmucker's Bible, because the Book of Zion is written entirely in Bible verse, and therefore is not publishable solo. Hence, the need for the second book. And now, in order to publish peace, I am reading to you from the manuscripts of the books that I have written, and by publishing peace, I am concluding my prophetic work. So, I'm beginning today with the 26th chapter of Potsmucker's Bible and the 23rd chapter of the Book of Zion. The chapter is called Behold My Servant, or the Book of Messiah. And I'm going to take up where I left off last time, with Jeremiah 11, 15, and 16. It becomes Zion 23, 42, and 43. And it goes like this. What hath my beloved to do in mine house, seeing that she hath wrought lewdness with many, and the holy flesh is passed from thee? When thou doest evil, then thou rejoicest. The Lord called thy name, a green olive tree, fair and of goodly fruit. With the noise of a great tumult he hath kindled a fire upon it, and the branches thereof are broken. What hath my beloved to do in mine house, seeing that she had wrought lewdness with many, and the holy flesh is passed from thee? When thou doest evil, thou rejoicest. There is a difference between a victim and a whore. Both may have the same amount of sex, but the whore enjoys it. The victim is raped. Yes, I was a victim of many rapes, but I was never a whore. Kenny may see me as a whore, but ask him or anyone this question. Is a 2 or 3-year-old a victim or a whore? Because however you answer that question is what your answer is to the many lewdnesses wrought within my flesh. Kenny may want nothing to do with me because I was a whore, having been raped by so many. But in my entire life, Mr. Baldwin, let it be known, only once have I ever truly, without regret, remorse, fear, or guilt, given myself sexually to anyone. Only one man, and that man was you. I have only consented once with one man. That man was Kenneth Dean Baldwin. So I may be the victim of many rapes, but I'm not a fucking whore. Because it wasn't Kenny's rejection, that made me want to end my life. It was all the rapes. To this day, I can't have sex without rape. I feel violated by each touch. I wanted to die because I was a victim of multiple rapes by multiple incest events, all of which had happened prior to Kenny's arrival on the scene. Rape killed me more than Kenny's betrayal, or rejection, I should say. His rejection just made my life so impossible that death was preferable, easier, more merciful. But I had vowed to serve God, so I wasn't allowed to die. I had to trust in God and suffer through my life, always working towards Zion, always waiting for Kenny to give a shit, which he never seems to do. Thankfully, I am far beyond the point of wanting to die for real. I love my life. Thank you, Kenny, for making me live. What has my beloved to do in my house? Well, so far nothing. I went to his house twice. Once before his marriage, once after his divorce. He rejected me each time. If it weren't for the prophecy, I would say, fuck it. But I will never go to his house again. So I will have nothing to do with his house. But I'm not his beloved. He is mine. So, what does Kenny have to do with my house? Well, in his dreams, it's his house. So, he has everything to do with my house in his sleep. I hate this. I wish he would wake the fuck up and come to me in my real house, in the waking world. It is my hope that one day he will actually have something to do with my house, but be he dead or alive. I can only hope that this verse is implying that one day will actually be a real day, and not just some insane fantasy that I have falsely believed in since 1979. But even if Kenny denies all of this forever, I will still have gained so much. Not even Kenny can take away from me the peace I now know. No one can take from me the good that I have done. I may be crazy. Kenny may never come back to me, but I am Zion as a result. He can't take from me the unicorn spirit. He didn't make me Zion. I did. So, Kenny, go ahead. Keep on denying that you once loved me. Because it's not about you. It's about me. The last two lines of this verse is about the state of my being. My flesh became holy upon ascension in 1979. Kenny's rejection of me was his rejection of the soul of Messiah. He who dwells with Zion embodies also Messiah. So, by refusing to be with me, Kenny refused the God of the solar system, Messiah. He is meant to embody the soul of Messiah, even as I am now embodied by the soul of Zion, his bride. We are to become the holy flesh of the God and Goddess of earth. But Kenny chose to do evil instead of embracing the Godhead offered to him, because he was forced to become a telepath by the Grey, and linked to me by necessity. He was given abilities that he chose to use for his own pleasure. He chose to do evil, as they say. So instead of becoming the embodiment of Messiah, he chose to rape me through other men, using the powers of Messiah for his pleasure. When I have sex, Messiah is present, holy flesh. but I am raping myself for Kenny's benefit. He forces me because he was forced first. Now the second verse. The Lord called thy name, a green olive tree, fair and of goodly fruit. With the noise of a great tumult, he hath kindled a fire upon it, and the branches thereof are broken. This is a reference for Kenny. He was called upon by Gray. He was of Zion, a pot smoker. He's a telepath, able to hear Gray's thought forms. The great tumult is in reference to biblical law. So the Gray used the tumult, but it was only part of the equation. Marijuana was part of it too, because the branches that are broken are burnt with fire. So here the Gray are saying that Kenny was called upon by name because of his telepathic abilities. They did it according to Jewish law, but he, not being Jewish or knowing Jewish law, didn't have the knowledge to understand the profit part of their contract. He only understood it as a human abduction event. This made our mutual paths much harder. He didn't know that the Gray were God. He didn't know that they were here to save humanity. All he knew was that little gray guys were trying to force him to do something with me. If he had understood the Gray's intent, things might have been easier. But that didn't happen, so Kenny had no way of understanding the Gray's intentions. He instead became obsessive and forcefully did things his way. The more they or I pushed, the worse Kenny's attitude became. He worked against us. Which leads us to Malachi 2, 4-16, which becomes Zion 44-46. Yet ye say, therefore, because the Lord hath been witness between thee and the wife of thy youth, against whom you have dealt very treacherously, yet she is thy companion and the wife of thy covenant. And did not he make one yet? He had the residue of the Spirit, and therefore one that he might seek a godly seed. Therefore take heed to your spirit, and let none deal treacherously against the wife of thy youth. Yet ye say, therefore, because the Lord hath been witness between thee and the wife of thy youth, against whom you have dealt very treacherously, yet she is thy companion and the wife of thy covenant. The Gray are witnesses between Kenny and myself. By praying for someone to love, I enacted the prophecy and invoked God, who had set up the marriage or merging of our last night together, when Kenny made his grand, meaningless vow that married me to him, but which apparently didn't marry him to me. His treachery. By promising me that I would always belong to him as long as I lived in this body, he married me. But instead of fulfilling his spoken vow, when I asked him to come get me, he rejected me and therefore dealt very treacherously with me. Add to that the 30 years of endless head games and body swapping, rapes, and he has indeed treated me very badly. The last sentence of this verse indicates that I have been in his head as well. I am his companion. Our telepathic link is a form of bonding that telepaths experience. We communicate on a deeper level than normal speech. Our minds speak, no body required. We are physically together, but we have been talking mentally. We're not physically together, but we've been talking mentally since April 1988, or at least I've been having conversations with him. They're all in for the day. So may the Gray watch over you, guide you, protect you, and keep you from all harm. May they teach you right from wrong, and may you be worthy of them. May your thoughts, words, and deeds reflect truth, good, and light the unicorn way. Find your joy and pursue it, and make that your guild choice when we get to Camp Zion. Stay happy and high. If you use drugs, you have every right and reason to. You have every right and reason to. Believe me, I know. I wrote 2 books about it. Love you. Later. I'll never say goodbye.